Hi, everybody. I'm Dennis Prager. Wonderful to be with you. All right. I rarely comment on a photo, but I believe this is the photo of the month. Might be the photo of 2021 thus far. And here it is, ladies and gentlemen. We got to put this up. It's precious. It is the Democrats in the Texas state legislature. I printed it out in color. I used almost all the color ink in my printer to put this picture up. And it is of the happy warriors of the Democratic Senate in Texas, leaving the state so that no laws can be passed because you need a quorum, 2/3 of the members. And the biggest reason has nothing to do with politics. Biggest reason I find this to be so important a photo. Not one is wearing a mask. The whole thing's phony. It's been phony from the get-go. These people believe in science like I believe in Zeus. They use science like they use people. That's all it is. The left uses things. If it's helpful to their power, they will use science. They will use the scientists that they believe in. Why are they not wearing masks in this very confined space of a chartered jet, small relative to the ones that they would fly normally from Dallas to Washington, D.C.? Anybody know why? Because they know it's a fraud. My question of do leftists know that they're lying is very tough to answer. When they say masks are necessary and don't wear them, how can you believe that they believe it? Why aren't they wearing masks? It is a farce that you're wearing a mask at an airplane, especially given that you don't wear it when you eat. See, when you eat, the virus is not expelled. It's digested. Yes, indeed. I did a lot of research on that one. In the Journal of Medical Nonsense, they had an article, which, by the way, now many journals of medicine qualify to be called. The other thing that I find interesting is I don't see a man. Did you notice this picture? There are men in the very back. Look at the picture, right? All you see is women. Yeah, the role of women in leftism, in chaos, is worthy of note. For all those who think, I've always considered it moronic, but there are even men, emasculated men to be sure, who believe that a world run by women would be a wonderful world. Well, if you believe in chaos and the breakdown of the West, you should definitely be a women should be leaders fan. By the way, there are some terrific women leaders. My favorite leader of the 20th century, Margaret Thatcher, happens to have been a woman. So I certainly understand the existence of spectacular women leaders. But as a rule, what they're leading in is the transgender movement, the removal of innocence from little children. I always thought that women were the protectors of children's innocence. I was naive. I mean it sincerely. I was naive. No masks. This is as big a scandal as the French Laundry restaurant, with Newsom not wearing a mask with friends at the restaurant while the rest of us had to. So it remains a question: do they believe their lies? It's a gigantic lie that masks are a help. Yes, surgical masks for surgery. By the way, do a test. Why don't you do a test? Put on the mask and see if you can smell a lemon or some perfume put by your nose. That you should certainly not be able to do. If that can get through, microscopic viruses might have a real chance of getting through. And I look at people in Glendale, California, where I broadcast. Yesterday, I drove down through the city, and I saw, I would say, a third of the people outdoors wearing masks. You know what it is? I'll tell you what the mask is. The mask is a reversion to infancy when you had a pacifier in your mouth. Masks are pacifiers. But there is a difference between a pacifier and a mask. Many differences. One is, there are rational reasons why a baby wants a pacifier. There are no rational reasons for wanting to wear a mask, especially outdoors. That you believe that if you're vaccinated, you should still wear a mask is painful to me. Painful. I expected better of my fellow American. I admit it. There have been a lot of disappointments in the last year and a half. A year and a half ago, I wrote a column, not only about the lockdown being the world's greatest mistake, but a column titled Dress Rehearsal for a Police State. I increasingly believe that that is true. And now, Dr. Fauci, who is not an idiot. He's a fool, and I believe he's corrupt. I believe the CDC is corrupt because of the amount of money they get from pharmaceutical companies. The FDA, do you know that the last FDA chairman, or the previous to that one, Scott Gottlieb, is on the board of Pfizer? Why isn't that well known? Why doesn't that raise questions? Ooh, look at that. Now, what connection might Pfizer have to the CDC and FDA? But this is the picture of the year. None of them wearing masks, all smiles, seated next to one another. But you plebeian American, you nothing, you who are silly putty in the hands of the progressives, you should wear masks when you are on an airplane. Not only an airplane, an airport. 1-8-Prager 776 877-243-7776. They're demanding that your kids wear masks in school when they return to school the end of August or early September. Who is doing that? Let's see. That's happening. De Blasio in New York City and Newsom in California. Yeah. It's another reason for you not to send your kid to school. It's time to make the break, my friends. Make the break. Everything needs some sort of meme or motto or slogan. Make the break. Yes, indeed. The break is with the state or strangers in private schools who act like they're the state, taking over your children's minds and sending back home each day a poisoned child. Now the poison is actually physiological. It's bad for children to wear masks. Bad. That's science. It's bad for them also psychologically. The interplay with human faces is exceedingly important. By the way, I think it's important for adults. That's why I oppose the Muslim veil. Yeah. So let's see. It's sort of the Islamification of the country. Half the country, or nearly half the country in many Muslim countries, wear veils, and more than half the country, at some point in this past year, wore veils here. They're both in the name of religion. Neither is in the name of science. They're both in the name of faith. Our faith here is the faith in scientists, not science. We shall return 1-8 Prager 776.
Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
This is the destruction of a fair and independent judiciary, and this is using ultimate power to try to destroy political opponents.
100%, Charlie. And it's not like this is the only example. I mean, listen, if you've been watching for the last 5 years, look at the FBI. Look at what they were doing. Nothing happens. They can lie before Congress. They can go and do a witch hunt. They can all know that it's BS. They can all get on TV and act as political pundits and talk about things in a way that they know to not be correct. You saw that, right? They testified before Congress. No, there was nothing there. But on TV every night, they pretended as though Russia was a real thing.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
Fiance? No, I can't be your fiance.
You're gonna go. You're gonna be my fiance, and you're gonna be the most amazing, fascinating, most successful man ever. We're only gonna be there for a few hours, eat dinner, and I promise we'll have the best breakup of all time.
My baby, my princess. Oh, booyah! Beat a little bit.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Things just happened.
My girlfriend and my best friend.
You got 30 days to grow up, son.
Nathan Hannigan, it is good to have you home.
Nona, it's Nathan.
Well, you don't mind my giving her your room, do you?
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Donald Rumsfeld is famous for many things. Before Donald Trump, there was Newt Gingrich in the 2012 campaign, demonstrating hostility to the media and confrontation with the media. But before there was Newt Gingrich, there was Donald Rumsfeld, demonstrating command of the media. Most famous for his combination of command and concise knowledge is this cut, which is his most famous response to a question.
There are reports that there is no evidence of a direct link between Baghdad and some of these terrorist organizations.
There are known knowns. There are things we know we know. We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things we do not know. But there are also unknown unknowns. The ones we don't know, we don't know.
Excuse me, but is this an unknown unknown?
I'm not.
Several unknowns, and I'm just wondering.
I'm not going to say which it is.
But Mr. Secretary,
I'm right here. I'm right here.
See, Rumsfeld knew exactly what he was doing. It makes perfect sense, and that's why his memoir is known as Known Unknowns. But for the full tutorial on how to deal with the media, here is a press situation with Donald Rumsfeld on April the 11th, 2003. Listen to how he deals with a hostile press.
I picked up a newspaper today, and I couldn't believe it. I read 8 headlines that talked about chaos, violence, unrest, and it just was henny penny. The sky is falling. I've never seen anything like it. And here is a country that's being liberated.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
And yes, indeed, everybody. Dennis Prager here. Okay. So, they don't believe what they're telling you. The proof is the French Laundry with Newsom. It's not that he's a hypocrite. It's irrelevant to me whether Newsom is a hypocrite. He's a nothing. I'm not interested in him as a human being or his character. It's of no interest to me. What is of interest to me is that you understand that they don't believe what they tell you to do. So the issue is not that he is a hypocrite. It's that the entire thing is a fraud. Your life has been suppressed. Businesses were crushed. Children were denied normal schooling for no good reason. That's the point. The irrational has taken over this country, and at every state governed by a Democrat. It is the irrational party. It is the lying party. It is the Communist Party. How's that? If they could, they would act like communists, completely suppressing all dissent. They can't yet. They're trying. They have the media. They have big companies. They don't have all the media, and they don't have all the social media. They would like to. So the issue is not, Newsom's a hypocrite, so I don't care. The whole Texas Democrat legislators, phonies. Are you for masks at airports? Of course. You for masks in airplanes? Of course. So why don't you wear one in your airplane? Who's going to ask them? CNN, NBC, ABC, CBS, PBS, NPR, New York Times, Washington Post? Who's going to ask them? They don't believe what they're telling you, or they believe it when they say it. It's a very unimpressive half of this country. It's very troubling. I can't deny it. It is troubling. One of my lacunae, lapses in my work, is that I don't tweet more often. And I mean it sincerely. It is. I wish I tweeted more often, and I keep making vows to do so. And then I don't follow through. But I followed through last night. I have a tweet. Please sign up at what is it? Hashtag Prager. What is it? What is it called? Hashtag Dennis Prager?
No, just Dennis Prager.
Just Dennis Prager on Twitter. I have a very important tweet today, and I will read it to you. Let me see it is there was based on an article I read in the New York Times. And it was about how they celebrate in China Mao. That it's now truly back to the cult of Mao, because it's really the cult of Xi. The two most dangerous people on earth are the Ayatollah Khamenei and Xi. This guy is very scary. I'll tell you a little about China in a moment, but here's my tweet. It has 276 people who loved it. Is that good? I have no idea. This should have thousands, because theoretically I have 300,000 followers on the Twitter, but I know I don't tweet enough. The Chinese teach their people that Mao and other Chinese communist monsters who murdered tens of millions are heroes. Meanwhile, America teaches its people that the heroes who founded the freest country in history and liberated tens of millions are monsters. How's that? And that's why China could win. The left is like always, is a tool of the monsters of the world, the left-wing monsters of the world. To like Mao is to be a bad human being. It is like liking Hitler or Stalin. Get it? Or Pol Pot. Give me, please, the name of my Mao book, because I never exactly remember the title. I think it's The Secret Life. One of the 10 most important books I ever read, and the only one that's a biography, is the one of Mao. It's 1,000 pages, densely written, tall pages. It's riveting.
It's just called Mao, the Unknown Story.
Mao, the Unknown Story. It took me months, actually, because I actually marked it up, the physical volume. We need to find it. I want to take quotes out of it for people. This man, Mao, was not only a mass murderer. They say 80 million. The conservative estimates are 40 million. Let's compromise at 60 million. Please understand that he killed 60 million people, his own people. Most genocides have been auto-genocides. Genocides of your own people. Not only, you have to understand the amount of suffering this man inflicted. Because remember, for every one of the 60 million dead, how many people around that person suffered because that person died? Plus, how many people nearly died? Do you know what Mao did? Mao took the food from China, gave it to Stalin in return for armaments because he wanted China to be a superpower. That's the reason. 99% of you don't know that because they don't teach it in schools. I don't believe 5 Harvard seniors. We ought to check this out when you get back, Harvard senior. I'm serious. Hey, do you know what Mao did to his people? Just a simple question. I had to give you a whole list of, I'm looking at Julie, who is my weekly visit on tomorrow. When you go back to Harvard, I should give you, I'm serious, a list of questions to politely ask. The ignorance among American students of the world is frightening. That's why he starved his people deliberately, to get armaments from the Soviets who needed food from the Chinese. Plus, as the book points out, he personally developed methods of torture of people who opposed him.
Streaming on Salem Now.
Things just happened.
My girlfriend and my best friend.
You got 30 days to grow up, son.
Nathan Hanning, it is good to have you home.
Nona, it's Nathan.
Well, you don't mind my giving her your room, do you?
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
Donald Rumsfeld is famous for many things. Before Donald Trump, there was Newt Gingrich in the 2012 campaign, demonstrating hostility to the media and confrontation with the media. But before there was Newt Gingrich, there was Donald Rumsfeld, demonstrating command of the media. Most famous for his combination of command and concise knowledge is this cut, which is his most famous response to a question.
There are reports that there is no evidence of a direct link between Baghdad and some of these terrorist organizations.
There are known knowns. There are things we know we know. We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things we do not know. But there are also unknown unknowns. The ones we don't know, we don't know.
Excuse me, but is this an unknown unknown?
I'm not.
Several unknowns, and I'm just
I'm
wondering.
not
this is
going.
an
I'm
unknown
not going to
unknown.
say which it is.
But, Mr. Secretary,
I'm right here. I'm right here.
See, Rumsfeld knew exactly what he was doing. It makes perfect sense, and that's why his memoir is known as Known Unknowns. But for the full tutorial on how to deal with the media, here is a press situation with Donald Rumsfeld on April the 11th, 2003. Listen to how he deals with a hostile press.
I picked up a newspaper today, and I couldn't believe it. I read 8 headlines that talked about chaos, violence, unrest, and it just was henny penny. The sky is falling. I've never seen anything like it. And here is a country that's being liberated.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
When did you wake up and say, hang on, this is not good?
Well, like I said earlier, I've been in for over 15 years. The first 14 years of my career, I was in the Air Force, was in the flying community, and then came into the Space Force. Every unit that I've ever been in, all of my professional interactions with people during the preponderance of my career have been highly professional, not politicized. We focus on a mission that unifies us. We wear the same uniform, and we go out and do our job every day. And when I noticed personally these things really rapidly beginning to change was in the past calendar year, but specifically in the aftermath of George Floyd's death. What you saw in broader society in the form of social justice activism pouring into the streets, the disruption of civil liberties, for example, and the dialogue, if you want to call it that ensued in the aftermath is the very thing that I saw just spill over into active duty military units. Now, I'll be clear that every unit is different, every leader is different, every base is different. But that's when I was really keen on seeing this happen. Now, I've been in academia for the past 2 years. And so what I'm able to share is simply one man.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dennis Prager, and I have an expert on what is going on with these voter laws. We are in the realm, again, of the big lie, but people are so used to it that they either know it's a big lie or they believe it. Every single left-wing network, which means every major network, NBC, CBS, ABC, CNN, New York Times, LA Times, speaks of voter suppression laws. It's a big lie. It's a total lie. There's nothing true about it. We have a video on it by well, not really by coincidence, because we understand how urgent an issue it is. We have a video up at PragerU on the issue. Very dispassionate, truth-based video on what the bills are about. The man giving it has been on the show before, Hans von Spakovsky, Senior Legal Fellow at the Heritage Foundation. This video is Georgia's reform bill, Who Wants Fair Elections? Hans, welcome back to the show.
Well, thanks for having me on. And, you know, Biden went after it again yesterday, calling Georgia's law a vicious anti-voting law, which is the complete opposite of the truth.
Well, it's even gone worse than that. He's compared it to Jim Crow.
Yeah, and I was actually just thinking about. I had just read through his speech, and I was trying to decide whether it's the most foolish thing that he's ever said, or whether it just shows such a fundamental ignorance that it just boggles the mind. Because, he said in his speech that these efforts by the states, if you can believe this, he said it's the most dangerous threat to voting and the integrity of free and fair elections in our history. That is such an absurd statement. I can't believe I heard that coming out of the President of the United States.
Well, I can believe it. That may be a rare area of difference between us. So why don't you basically just, in a nutshell, review, people don't know what to believe. Does it suppress the vote? What is the point of the Georgia law?
No, they simply made some reforms to fix some of the vulnerabilities in the system. And probably the best example is that, look, Georgia's had a voter ID law in place since the 2008 presidential election for in-person voting. You're required to show a government-issued photo ID, and if you don't have one, the state will give you a free ID. Like I said, that law has been in place for more than a decade. Not only have they had no problems with it, turnout in the state, they've had record registration and record turnout, including of minority voters. So what did they do in the election reform bill? They simply extended the voter ID requirement to absentee ballots. And you can take care of this by providing a photocopy of the same kind of ID, or if you have a Georgia driver's license or voter ID card, you can fill in the serial number. And if you don't have any of that, you can simply provide them with a photocopy of a utility bill, bank statement, paycheck, or other government document with your name and address on it. It's just not a problem to meet this requirement. Other states have had laws like this in place for a couple of years, Alabama being one, Wisconsin another, that have an ID requirement that applies to both in-person and absentee balloting. They've had no problems. There's no evidence that a single person anywhere was unable to vote because of that requirement. That is Joe Biden's version of Jim Crow, supposedly.
Do you know, I'm saying this to my listeners, do you, my listeners, know that they never give an example? Joe Biden did not give an example. They never do. They charge conservatives and Republicans with horrible things, but never give an example of it. Everyone.
No, that's right.
Okay, go on.
Well, and I was going to say, look, the Georgia actually has looser voting rules than the state of Delaware, where Joe Biden is from, and this is true throughout of all the provisions they have in the state. I mean, Georgia, for example, has 17 days of early voting. Delaware doesn't have any early voting. And yet, the changes, they made some changes in that, and the Justice Department has sued them, claiming it's somehow discriminatory. I will tell you, the Department of Justice under Merrick Garland filed a lawsuit against Georgia over its election reform bill. It also is an absurd lawsuit. I've read through it.
All right, hold on. I want to hear about that. Merrick Garland, supposedly the moderate. Watch his video, Hans von Spakovsky's at Prager U. A reminder for you to visit Relief Factor, relieffactor.com. The thing is a magic pill that enables many people to function normally who have joint or muscle pain. Go to relieffactor.com. You'll know within 3 weeks whether it works, so they have a 3-week price, $20 plus shipping. Relieffactor.com, 800-500-8384. I take it regularly. I only advertised it because my wife told me how much it had helped her knees. ReliefFactor.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
There's about 57 Muslim states in the world. There's one Jewish state.
The massive ingathering of Jews in the last 150 years back to the land is absolutely unprecedented.
They say that there's no greater sign of redemption coming than the Jewish people returning to the hills of Judea.
As a Christian, I've always supported Israel's claim to the Holy Land. To me, the Palestinians were just getting in the way of God's plan.
300,000 Palestinians are unemployed.
In spite of all the years of conflict, there's hope here, if you know where to look for it.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
Yesterday, General Milley told a congressional hearing that there is no chance, very unlikely and very little motivation for the People's Republic of China on this, the 100th anniversary of the Chinese Communist Party, to assault Taiwan in the near term. Quote, there's no reason to do it militarily, and they know that. So I think the probability is probably low in the immediate near-term future. Your reaction, Senator Cotton?
Well, I think that's right, up through the end of the Beijing Olympics in February. Russia didn't invade Crimea, and 8 months before the Sochi Olympics in 2014, they invaded it 4 days after those Olympics ended.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
Surprise! Sharon and you what?
Things just happened.
My girlfriend and my best friend.
You got 30 days to grow up, son.
Nathan Hannigan, it is good to have you home.
Nona, it's Nathan.
Well, you don't mind my giving her your room, do you?
Really though, thanks for thinking of me for this position.
I thought about you first. Come on, growing up, I had a huge crush on you.
There are things that we all need to change about ourselves, but we can't blame God because He helps us change.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
It was too good to be true. I tried it out. I actually got a phone through them, Pure Talk. $30 a month for unlimited text, unlimited talk. That alone would be amazing. But you get 6 gigabytes of data as well. And if you go over on data, they don't even charge you. It's the highest rated wireless company by Consumer Affairs. It's the same as Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile. I actually got a second phone through them. You can get a new phone at great price, by the way. Or you can keep your phone and your phone number. Your choice. From your cell phone, dial pound 250, pound 250, and say the magic words, Dennis Prager. Wow. I'm touched. And save an additional $50 off your first month. That's pound 250, and say Dennis Prager. That's an example of saving money that goes down the drain otherwise. Folks, we're living the lie of voter suppression laws. It's a lie. It's a lie. Everything that comes from the left is a lie. It's been true since Lenin. That's why Lenin made his communist newspaper the name Pravda. Pravda means truth. There's leftist truth and there's truth. That's it. That's what you need to know. I stake my entire reputation on what I just said. Okay? Either they're lying or I'm lying. Just want to make that clear. I love clarity. Hans van Spakovsky gives the Van, and he is a senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Is there a junior legal fellow there?
Well, we have some people that aren't quite as senior as me, so I've been here for
Are
quite
you
a
a
while.
rising senior or actually a senior?
My wife tells me I'm a rising senior, so...
That was very witty, my friend. I won't go any further, but I loved it. That was really swift. God, I have so many great comments to make, but I will return to our subject. So, people need to understand. There's nothing true about the voter suppression. So now, Merrick Garland, Attorney General of the United States, is having the Department of Justice investigate Georgia. Is that what you were up to?
Yeah, they actually filed a lawsuit claiming that all these changes were racially discriminatory under the Voting Rights Act, and the claims they're nutty claims. And I'll give you an example of one. Georgia never allowed drop boxes for people to put their absentee ballots in. Well, during last year's election, the state election board issued an emergency regulation because of COVID, allowing drop boxes to be used in the counties throughout the state. So as part of this election reform bill, the Georgia legislature actually legalized drop boxes. And they set up a formula for it. You can have one drop box in each county plus a certain number of extra drop boxes for every, I think it was 100,000 people of population. So it's a strict mathematical formula just depending on how many voters you have. Well, in the lawsuit DOJ filed, they claimed that this wasn't enough drop boxes, and not having more drop boxes would somehow discriminate against black voters. Apparently,
why? That's not obvious to you?
No, it's not. But it is to them, and that's how absurd the claims are. I mean, another one, just very quickly, is in Georgia. It used to be you had up until 4 days before Election Day to request an absentee ballot. Well, they changed that to 11 days before Election Day for a voter to request an absentee ballot. That supposedly is now racially discriminatory. What they failed to mention was that last year, Dennis, the U.S. Postal Service sent a letter to all 50 states saying, we strongly recommend that you change the deadline for a voter to request an absentee ballot to conform with our delivery standards for first-class mail, and we think you ought to have the deadline be 15 days before Election Day. So Georgia was actually trying to accommodate what the Postal Service said and make sure that folks didn't request an absentee ballot too late so that it would arrive too late to be counted. That supposedly is racially discriminatory.
So give me a moment here, Hans. I want to just say to you and to my listeners, there are two very important rules to be learned from all of this. One, the contempt that the left has for blacks. Utter contempt. Yes. An ID law is anti-black, is as anti-black a sentiment as a human can come out with. It is truly to say blacks are less competent than all other people. Number two, this is another proof of how little racism there is in the United States, that this is what constitutes racism. Two huge lessons to be learned from the gigantic lie of Joe Biden last night.
No, that is absolutely right. And, you know, what's interesting about it is the polling shows the American people don't agree with any of this. You know, one of the latest polls by, I think it was Monmouth University, showed that 80% of Americans think voter ID, of course, that's a common sense reform. They support it. The number of minority voters, so including blacks who support it, is 84%. An even higher percentage. So clearly, black voters don't agree that they somehow are incapable.
Black voters don't agree
that
that blacks vote Democrat is the biggest political riddle in the United States. The Democrats hurt blacks. Blacks don't believe in defunding the police. They don't believe in not having an ID for voting. They don't believe in not having school choice. They don't believe in almost anything the Democrats stand for, but they vote Democrat. It's a scandal that hurts the black community. You do great work, Hans, and say hi to your wife.
I will do that. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. with great moments. We will continue. You are listening to The Dennis Prager Show. Remember my two lessons, the contempt for blacks and the fact that there's so little racism. This is what they have to use to prove that there is.
Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
I want to talk about what's happening in New York with Letitia James and what I consider to be a political persecution unlike anything, I think, in American political history. How are you guys dealing with this? And do you guys see this as, you obviously said this last night, but as a continuation of almost this 5-year political witch hunt?
100%. I mean, it's pretty clear when the Attorney General of a state, without any information, literally campaigns on saying, "Hey, we're going to investigate, we're going to lock them up, we're going to do this, that, and the other." It's pretty amazing that they can get away with it, and then they do it, and then they do it for 5 years. And the reality is this: there's no recourse. There's no one keeping them in check, Charlie. They can just do this. You have nowhere to appeal it to. You're going to appeal it to a leftist judge in New York who feels the same way. They're utilizing their taxpayer-funded offices in a political vendetta to try to damage my father. And the reality is this: even after 5 years, in search of a crime, right? They've been looking for 5 years. They're getting closer, Charlie. We've been hearing this now literally for half a decade, and yet there's still nothing there. And yet no one's stopping them. So as crime rates go through the roof in New York, as murder rates go through the roof, as businesses are going out of business because of New York's disastrous recovery response, they're spending taxpayer dollars on a political witch hunt against Donald Trump rather than, I don't know, murderers. This is what's going on in America. They're outraged when this stuff happens in, I guess, Belarus recently, right?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
If you're longing for a place that feels like pre-pandemic America, I'll tell you right now, Las Vegas is one of them. What's your community? Tell me what your town is like and how you would respond to being in a theater with 1,800 other people, elbow to elbow. Here's Mike. What's the upstate of South Carolina, Mike, life like, Mike?
Mike, it is wide open for business, baby. We are rocking and rolling, and we cannot get enough people to work. So come on down here and grab yourself a job.
I love it. That makes me happy. Coming back to work makes me happy. Thank you, Mike.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Joe Biden was sold as a moderate. People that had worked with Joe Biden back in the day said, "Oh, I've known Joe for years. He's okay. He's fine."
Listen, when he got the hair plugs.
Hi, everybody. I want to share with you personal, sad news, not about me. A man who meant a great deal to me died. Was it yesterday, or it was yesterday. I spoke to him Saturday night after he was recuperating from a heart attack, then had a second one and died. Guido Lamel. Guido Lamel, or Mell, I don't remember which. One, what is it? 2 L's. Guido Lamel was a member of the Los Angeles Philharmonic for many years. He was a master violinist. He was the chief conductor and music director of the Santa Monica Symphony Orchestra. We became very close when he invited me to conduct the Santa Monica Symphony Orchestra in a Haydn symphony at Disney Concert Hall. It was so successful that it was the only time in Disney Concert Hall history that a regional orchestra sold out the entire place. I have a lot of moving moments in my life. I'm a very rich man in that way. I count that evening as one of the 10 greatest moments of my life. Thanks to Guido Lamel. Attacked viciously for bringing me. How dare you bring a conservative to conduct music? Only leftists should conduct music. 7 members of the orchestra refused to even play for me. Even though I raised that evening, I didn't take a penny, I raised that evening the entire year's budget for the Santa Monica Symphony Orchestra. The Santa Monica mayor told people not to attend. It was better to crush his orchestra than have them attend a concert that a conservative conducted. The left is despicable. Guido Lamel stood his ground, and interview after interview. Dennis Prager is good for the orchestra, and he is good for music, and he is a good man. Basically, that was his message. He was a man of goodness and of courage. We ended the evening playing America the Beautiful. I was on accordion. It was in front of the orchestra, and he played the saw. Yes, the saw. He used his bow. He was that talented that he could play America the Beautiful on a saw. I have the chills as I recollect this to you. Most of the people, 2,500, had tears in their eyes singing that. I hope one day that video could be released. Guido Lamel, I really loved you. And will always. May you rest in peace, my friend.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
I had studied Marxist history, beginning with Marx and Engels' Communist Manifesto from 1848. And when I first studied that and saw in section 1 of the manifesto what you can recognize as what's called the oppressor versus oppressed narrative of human history, a whole bunch of stuff that was taking place in our country began to become exceptionally clear to me. And I began to piece together a lot of the what I'll call militant impulse that was manifesting in society as time went on. And there's a victimhood ideology. There's constantly an effort by some individuals who have an agenda to pit groups of people against one another as victims or oppressed groups and oppressor groups. And we've seen very clearly over the past calendar year who the oppressor group is labeled to be and who the oppressed groups are labeled to be. And right now, under the auspices of diversity and inclusion training, as well as critical race theory and other narratives of American history that have been parading about throughout the country and showing up in our education system, all of those narratives seek to divide the American people by pitting people against one another into racial groups.
Yeah,
It's the white versus the black. It
used to be class, division by class. Now it's division by race, by skin color. We've only begun to scratch the surface. We're going to go deep dive on what's happening inside the U.S. military and why this man took the courageous step of writing the book Irresistible Revolution. Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Lohmeyer.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
Some lawyer hit a little girl.
Former cancer patient Sharon Blackwell was struck by an oncoming vehicle.
And take this into evidence, sir. I need to call my wife.
You've been accused of texting while driving.
Before you take your daughter off life support, give God room to be God.
You're not guaranteed another day, but you have today.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
1/3 of California small businesses will never reopen. 1/3. Many of the things that Gavin Newsom did had nothing whatever to do with science. You've heard me interview small business owners who said he imposed lockdowns and mandates and then loosened them and then reimposed them and then loosened them so nobody knew what the hell to do. The science suggested that schools could have remained open. We already have a situation where 75% of black kids in California cannot read at state levels of proficiency. Nearly half of all kids in California cannot read at state levels of proficiency. And yet schools were shut down for a full year. And the left is always talking about leveling the playing field, making sure that things are equal. How in the world are you going to get equal when you have prevented black kids, Hispanic kids from having in-school learning for over a year, and everybody knows this video learning is not the same. This is a state where you drive around in a city like LA, Bay Area, underneath an overpass, on the left and on the right, a whole bunch of homeless people, one after another, after another, after another, posing threats to their safety, to the safety of the non-homeless. It's non-hygienic. And then don't get me started on crime. Crime up dramatically in cities in LA. Year to year, shooting victims up 50% in LA.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Two things are happening. One is that parents across the board are starting to speak up and not take this anymore. You've seen in Loudoun, Virginia, on the critical race theory issue just the last couple of weeks, school board meetings where parents have lined up by the hundreds. They are unloading on these school boards. I've seen people activate in ways that I didn't see them in the prosperous years of President Trump. People are mad. This is not the way life goes. And to your point about girls that are competing with all of their might and they're falling short, they're not just giving up on the dream of winning that race. They're losing college scholarship opportunities. 2 years ago in Connecticut, in the high school girls track division, 15 state all-time records were shattered by two boys that ran as girls in that division.
But the leaders
Shattered
of the
15
state
records.
let this happen, Kevin. Can you
Yes.
imagine adult grown men and women elected to these positions, intelligent professional people, let this happen? Those people should be hung out to dry. Those people should have people go to their homes and say, demand that either you change this or you need to resign.
What is the key between those local officials and the Biden administration? I mean, Biden came into office and said, we're gonna not just protect transgenders' ability to compete in women's divisions, we're gonna expand it. And he's tried to force down executive orders on the public schools across the country to adopt it. They haven't all gone with it, and some states are fighting it pretty aggressively. Florida and Texas have told him to go pound sand. That's what should be happening.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
And this is the destruction of a fair and independent judiciary. And this is using ultimate power to try to destroy political opponents.
100%, Charlie. And it's not like this is the only example. I mean, listen, if you've been watching for the last 5 years, look at the FBI. Look at what they were doing. Nothing happens. They can lie before Congress. They can go and do a witch hunt. They can all know that it's BS. They can all get on TV and act as political pundits and talk about things in a way that they know to not be correct.
Hi, everybody. On behalf of Dr. Fussbender, welcome to the Male-Female Hour. This is Wednesday, ergo the second hour, and remember, it was not coincidental. Wednesday. And we talk about male-female relations on this day. We're very pro-wedding, by the way. A very brief introduction to the hour. I think it's the most honest hour about men and women in American media today. I don't know it for a fact, but I think that's true. And the purpose of the hour is to explain men to men, men to women, women to men, and women to women. And to have them get along better. And finally, I'm a good guy to do it because I'm neither a man fan nor a woman fan. I'm a good person fan. There are good women, good men, lousy men, and lousy women. I think it's pretty much in equal numbers. Okay, I got a good one for you today. Good topic because it has both seriousness and lightness inherent to it. So as soon as you hear it, please feel free to call in. I will give my comments, but you call in as soon as you hear the topic. Very simple. You're going out to a restaurant with your spouse, and the husband wants Chinese food. The wife wants Italian food. How do you resolve the issue? 1-8-PRAGER 776 877-243-7776. For literalists among you, you can switch. He wants Italian, she wants Chinese. The issue is not Italian versus Chinese. That is not the issue, my friends. Sean got really hung up on that. Sean, I could even do it differently. One wants burgers and the other wants pizza. Okay. He wants both. That's hilarious. You know what? There's too much levity at the Dennis Prager Show, gentlemen. A little seriousness would not hurt. So, how do you resolve an issue like that? I'm not talking about raising the children. I am talking about an issue like, what restaurant do you go to? How do you resolve it? I have two rules that generally govern the restaurant difference issue in my marriage. I have two basic rules that I follow. One is, I'll go where she wants to go. What the hell? It's not like her choice is botulism versus my non-botulism choice. All right? That's one rule. But I have a deeper rule. And this pertains to everything beyond and including restaurants. The one for whom the matter is more important generally should be the one who prevails. If whatever the issue is really, really important to person A and not as important to person B, go with person A. Now, anything could be abused because person A can claim that everything is more important to him or her in every instance. Well, that's obviously an abuse. But generally speaking, with two largely decent and rational people, sometimes the issue is more important to A and sometimes the issue is more important to B. So if it's not that important to you, so on the issue of restaurant, it is never that important to me what restaurant we go to. So why bother pushing for it? I'm happy in either case, which is, by the way, a good thing to have in a spouse, someone who tends to be happy in most cases. But that's another issue for another time. The other question, now that I'm thinking about it, this just occurred to me. Has that question ever caused a fight? Has your wanting restaurant A and she or he wanting restaurant B, has that ever caused an actual argument? You always get what you want. I'm sick of that. That would be I think it would be a sad sign. Something like, what restaurant are you going to go to, shouldn't lead to a fight. But I am curious if it has. And am I right that is a bad sign? All right, let's see. Darren in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. Hello.
Hello, Dennis. As usual, I think you are 100% right. Because of you, I actually have changed my way of thinking when it comes to relationship. I think I agree with you 100%. Whichever it is more important to, give in. It's much better to be considerate of somebody else than to be selfish and think that what you want is always
Oh,
prevail.
so good. So you adopted that, hearing me say it?
Because of you, and I think the people in my life would be able to say there's a big difference of me now and what I was 20 years ago when I first started listening to you. And that is exactly, when I listen to your male-female hour, other than the happiness hour, it's my favorite hour of the week because my marriage is everything to me. And it has helped out greatly, realizing to be not selfish. And it's just a much happier life, and it's so much easier. But I do think that prior to getting married, hopefully you take the time to get to know your spouse well so that you understand that you're marrying somebody who has the same ideology and is willing to compromise as much as you are.
Well, I'm very touched by your call. He's 42, according to here, so he started listening when he was 22. I'm glad he started so early. I get calls from people 20 years older than Darren. I started at 42. I wish I had started at 22. Anyway, it's so easy. To me, some of these things are so easy. That's what I distinguish in life between inevitable pain and gratuitous pain. There are inevitable pains in marriage or in raising children or in anything that is important in your life or in your work. It's inevitable. But the gratuitous ones should be abolished. That's how I view it. Pain over things like this, which restaurant to go to, should not be a pain. Should be a non-issue. Anyway, his wife should send me cigars. Just a hint. That was nice. That was nice. Okay, Stephanie in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Hi, how are you? My feeling is I don't even see why this is a big deal. I mean, you end up sharing the same way you do.
Wait a minute. Wait. What does that mean? Do you keep a list? Do you keep tally?
No. This time it's my turn to choose. Next time it's your turn to choose.
So you do keep a tally.
Well, you keep a tally in terms of this time I'll decide, next time you decide. I mean, this way you learn to enjoy other things. I mean, my husband and I, when we married, had similar values, but different interests. And
I gotcha. That's an interest. All right, it's not exactly my approach, but if it works, not an issue.
Streaming on Salem Now.
Some lawyer hit a little girl.
The community is left in shock as former cancer patient Sharon Blackwell was struck by an oncoming vehicle.
Take this into evidence, sir.
I need to call my wife. You've been accused of texting while driving.
We don't make an example out of this guy, the public will crucify us.
Before you take your daughter off life support, give God room to be God.
You're not guaranteed another day, but you have today.
Get back or I'll shoot you.
Only one's left inside for the pastor and his 2 daughters.
If you run, I'll shoot your family. Nobody cares whether I live or die. It's bad.
I'm not going to stand around and be a part of it anymore. Give me the gun.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
Las Vegas, I mean, it is open for business. It is wide open. It's unreal how different things are in a place like Las Vegas. I mean, somebody look up, Derek, see how many seats the O show at the Bellagio holds. How many seats are in that theater? The show is called O at the Bellagio. See how many seats it holds. It was packed. I mean, there's no social distancing going on in Las Vegas. There just isn't. Now, does that disturb you? Or does that make you happy? Does it bother you to know that there are communities that, like Las Vegas, that have a theater that I sat in and was in amazement at the Las Vegas production of O at the Bellagio with 1,800 seats, and it was packed. It was sold out. There weren't seats between other seats. There weren't empty seats blocked out with stupid X marks. And incidentally, on the topic of Las Vegas, may I respectfully suggest a must-see show if you like Vegas like I do. I don't do a whole lot of gambling. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I love the theaters, the shows. I love the hotels. I love the restaurants. I love the vibe of Las Vegas. The Magic of Jen Kramer at the Westgate is a must-see.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
We've had 6 months of the new administration. It is the farthest thing from moderation that the government has ever seen, and it is the fastest track to extremism that we've ever had elected.
But Kevin, how did I know that in advance? Why in my debate
because
with
I
David
told you.
French did I know this and you knew this? There was no question in my mind. So the fact that this has now happened, part of me wants to say, ha ha, but it's just too sad to say ha ha. This is something that I warned against and you warned against and others warned against because we knew that the consequences are devastating.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
There's about 57 Muslim states in the world. There's one Jewish state.
All right. I want to do something great with your spouse. Come with me to Israel this October. The Stand With Israel tour. Matt Gallagher and I are going a 10-day tour through the land of Israel this fall. Salem Media Group and our travel partner, Inspiration Cruises and Tours. It's these people know how to handle big groups, even bigger than we bring, which is usually about 500. You get very close to the people on your bus, and you meet people on the other buses at all the events. And of course, I speak to you pretty often. It's an amazing experience. Go to the Stand With Israel banner at my website. If this past year and a half have taught you anything, they should have taught you. Take life in while you can. You can call 855-565-5519, 855-565-5519, or just go to the banner at DennisPrager.com, Stand With Israel. Male-female hour every Wednesday. The subject is, you want food X, say Chinese food, she wants Italian. How do you resolve it? I gave you my approach. And now, let's hear your approach. Penny in Greenwood, South Carolina. Hi, Penny.
Dennis Prager, it's a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you.
What I told your lovely woman that answers the phone is my father-in-law, I'm a widow now, and my father-in-law told me, Penny, you've got to love your husband more than you love being right, more than you love getting your way. In this instance, more than you love having pizza. And it was the simplest, yet it saved me from a lot because I'm very vocal. Sometimes I don't think before I speak, and it put it into perspective, and it made my marriage better. So that's what I do.
That's a beautiful approach. Love your spouse more than you love being right.
Correct.
You know what that reminds me? One of the great lessons of my life I got from driver's ed in high school. Don't be dead right.
Ooh.
It changed my life. You may have the green light and you're right, but if the guy's speeding through a red light, it's best not to move the car.
Wow, that should have caught on, because that could save a lot of people, couldn't it?
That's right. Don't be dead right. So that's what you're saying. By the way, may I ask, because you're only in your 50s, at least that's what I have here. At what age did your husband die?
He died at 59. He's been gone for 3 years now.
How did he die?
He died of congestive heart failure. It was. Well, I guess it was his time. I don't think it was. I just he just got into poor health. He had a heart attack or two, and I think he gave up. To be honest with you, he was much a man, and then
my heart goes out to you.
Thank you. I miss him every day, but I'll always remember him big and strong the way he was, and he got his way a lot, but it didn't bother me a bit.
What gives you joy?
Oh, what doesn't give me joy?
Okay,
your
that
happiness
answered
hour,
it.
I love it.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
You answered it. You are precious. Penny is precious. That was one of the great answers of my radio career. That's why I stopped the call. What doesn't give me joy? That's powerful. How many people could say that? I can, actually. I'm very blessed. Penny, I want you to know something, if you're still there.
I'm still here.
You are a precious woman.
Thank you, Dennis Prager. Thank you.
I choked her up. It was a worthy choking up. That was moving. She had a real blast of bad stuff. Lose her husband in her 50s. She loved the guy. It's terrible, that loss. But what doesn't give her joy? Well, I got to remember that on the happiness hour. My way of putting it was until now, until Penny. I will now date my views as BP and AP, before Penny and after Penny. That I've always said, the more things that bring you joy, the happier you will be. Why do you think I say, you think it's a joke? when I say on the not the happiness hour, the third hour on Fridays, call in on anything, especially classical music, audio equipment, photography equipment, cigars, and fountain pens. That's my way of saying how many things bring me joy. It's a big part of my happiness. That's why I love my job. Yes, indeed. All right. So the question began with, you want Chinese or Italian or whatever food, and your spouse wants the other. How do you resolve it? Arlington, Texas. Christy. Hello, Christy.
Yes, sir. Hello.
Hello.
I told your screener, I said, we have 8 children. If we can go on a date, just the 2 of us, I don't care what we're eating.
I love it. I'm
You know what I
telling
mean?
you guys, this is awesome. I'm like moderating geniuses today. This is great. That is so funny. That's great. What the hell?
Yeah,
Who cares
they're
what we
27
eat?
to
Just let's
5.
get the hell out of here.
So he says, you want to go out to dinner? I'm like, yes, I don't care.
How often do you take the 8 kids to dinner?
Never.
Oh, God, am I happy I am.
Seriously, never. I mean, what does it cost? $300. So
Yes, that's why I asked.
they come every Sunday night to my house, and we feed all of them. So total, there are now 14 of us with spouses and grandchildren.
Well, wait, you don't have any kids living at home? You're a young woman.
No, I have 6 still at home.
Oh, that's what I thought. So you don't take the 6 to the restaurant either.
No. You know what happens if somebody's at camp or somebody's working or whatever? We have 2 or 3 at home. We're like, oh, let's go out to dinner. There's just 5 of us.
All right. So are you Catholic, Mormon, or evangelical?
Southern Baptist.
There you go. Is there a secular family in America with 8 children? I enjoy you folks. Part of the reason you enjoy me. It's always reciprocal. You enjoy X, X enjoys you. That's pretty much a rule of life. We'll be back.
The Dennis Prager Show. Trending now on the Larry Elder Show.
Anyway, you were talking about Bill Cosby, and I kind of disagreed with you about, you were saying about all the women. I might say maybe what is it, 18 women?
Oh, no, it's close to 50 women that have made allegations.
50?
50, 50.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you believe all of them are
Well, you think all 50 are lying, including Beverly Johnson, one of the first black major models in America? She said he also gave her drugs and tried to rape her.
I'm a woman, and what I'm saying is, and they're in Hollywood. He's a high profile man,
mm-hmm.
and they wanted to be alone with him. They might not have wanted his advances, but it's kind of
Lynn, please. There's no doubt that because he was famous and rich, he attracted women. The question is, did he drug them and have sex with them? And that's known as rape.
And the question is, let me answer that. That's what I'm saying. If they drank anything that he had,
right,
they willingly drink it.
Okay. Now, Lynn, hold on a second. The reason Bill Cosby got released is because the prior prosecutor apparently entered into some sort of deal with him and said, you're not going to be criminally prosecuted if you testify honestly in the civil trial. And in the civil trial, years ago, he testified and admitted that he gave that particular woman a drug in order to have sex with her. He admitted it under oath.
One woman. Okay, one woman. Yes, but not.
How many does it take?
Well, I just saying, I know I'm a woman. I know women. I'm not saying some of it didn't happen, but some of them are scorned because they thought they was going to get something out of it.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
What is your message to those who think this isn't a big deal or who feel cowed and intimidated? What do you say to them?
Anytime you say something like what I'm about to say, I'm sure it can be abused and misused, so I'll be very careful in how I say it. I've never read Hitler's Mein Kampf, but I've picked it up recently in the past week because I'm interested in learning everything I can about history. After spending just a day with his Mein Kampf, the spirit and essence of his race hatred that shows up in that book, a set of 2 books, is very similar to what I'm seeing show up in How to Be an Anti-Racist.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
I want to talk about what's happening in New York with Letitia James and what I consider to be a political persecution unlike anything, I think, in American political history. How are you guys dealing with this? And do you guys see this as, you obviously said this last night, but as a continuation of almost this 5-year political witch hunt?
100%. I mean, it's pretty clear when the Attorney General of a state, without any information, literally campaigns on saying, "Hey, we're going to investigate, we're going to lock them up, we're going to do this, that, and the other." It's pretty amazing that they can get away with it. And then they do it. And then they do it for 5 years. And the reality is this: there's no recourse. There's no one keeping them in check, Charlie. They can just do this.
The hour and the show are very human. It's one of the distinguishing characteristics of my show. I'm interested in you as well as your opinion. In most cases, not every, but most cases. Anyway, it's been fascinating thus far. The question is, how do you resolve the question, you want to go to X restaurant and he or she wants to go to Y restaurant? I gave my guidelines, but your guidelines are obviously more interesting to me because I know me. All righty, let's see here. Christina, Greenville, South Carolina. Hello.
Hi, Dennis Prager. Thank you for taking my call.
I'm delighted.
I'm excited to answer this question.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty simple to me. This is the same thing I would do with teenagers if they were all too entitled to pick one place. I would simply say, let's go to the mall food court.
You sound like King Solomon resolving the issue of whose baby is it. That is a very
my husband and I have
funny response. But that's not exactly a restaurant, a food court.
Oh, it's mini.
It's many. That's very funny. Yeah, but you're eating, it's like a cafeteria, like there are 100 tables there, 50 tables. No, you're right. You have resolved the problem. Everybody gets their own type of food, but it's not, look, I'm not Mr. Ambience, but it is not, okay, I'm glad you laughed. The food court is not known for ambience. I don't even care if I have no interest in an expensive restaurant. But an enclosed place with your own table is different from a food court. Anyway, that does resolve the problem. I'm glad I asked. All right, Buffalo, Minnesota. And Steve, hello.
Hello, Dennis.
Hey.
Well, a few years ago, my wife and I were traveling with our daughter, who was about 13 at the time. And we were apparently debating about where to eat, and our daughter piped up from the back seat and said, "You guys always fight about where to eat." And the light bulb went off, and I resolved at that moment to never fight about where we're going to eat. So generally, she gets to, have the final vote on that.
Your daughter really contributed to your marriage.
She did. She still does.
That's fascinating. I'm very happy she said that. There should never be a fight over where to eat. If there are regular fights over where to eat, I think it is a fairly clear example of our seeing the tip of an iceberg of issues. So the daughter did a good thing. That's right. And you did a good thing. By the way, the light bulb went on, not off. Just for the record. All right. And let's see here. Isaac in Los Angeles. Hello, Isaac.
Hi.
Hi.
So, with my wife and I, if there is an issue, I want to eat where she wants to eat. So if she mentions Chinese and I happen to have mentioned Mexican food, she will fight that we should go to a Mexican restaurant, and I will fight that we should go to the Chinese restaurant that she initially wanted.
You have a very strange relationship.
I'm telling you, when there's two different foods, yeah, we're going to share.
Wait a minute. You fight for her choice, and she fights for your choice?
Yes, she wants me to be satisfied and go to the restaurant that I happen to mention, and I want her to experience what she mentioned.
How do you resolve that one?
Well, it's a question of perseverance. It's a question of hanging on, and so I tend to hang on a bit longer, so we get to go and do what she wanted to do.
Oh my God, that is really a riot. I believe you 100%. I sort of can't relate to it. If my wife fought for where I wanted to go, I'd always give in. Just for the record. Oh. All right, everybody. ReliefFactor.com, 800-500-8384. These people who have made Relief Factor should be given some sort of an award, and I believe that, and I'm serious about it. If you go to their website, you will see testimonials of people of how this has helped them relieve pain in their back, in their shoulders, knees, so basically muscle and joint pain. I take it, it works very fast. In other words, 3 weeks. If it doesn't work, cancel your order. They tell you that. So there's a 3-week price of $20. 800-500-8384, ReliefFactor.com.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio. Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
If you're longing for a place that feels like pre-pandemic America, I'll tell you right now, Las Vegas is one of them. What's your community? Tell me what your town is like and how you would respond to being in a theater with 1,800 other people, elbow to elbow. Here's Mike. What's the upstate of South Carolina, Mike, life like, Mike?
Mike, it is wide open for business, baby. We are rocking and rolling, and we cannot get enough people to work. So come on down here and grab yourself a job.
I love it. That makes me happy. Coming back to work makes me happy. Thank you, Mike.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Joe Biden was sold as a moderate. People that had worked with Joe Biden back in the day said, "Oh, I've known Joe for years. He's okay. He's fine."
Listen, when he got the hair plugs, he flipped. A long time ago, he was bald as an egg, and he got hair plugs. And I believe those hair plugs were from a Chinese lab in the Wuhan province, and things started to go screwy, and he flipped.
So he said. I don't know that that's true. I think he hid maybe who he was for a long time. A lot of liberals did in the 70s.
Wait. First of all, he's nobody. He has no values. Let's not kid ourselves. He's not a Marxist. He is a husk of a person, and he will just do. That's the whole point of your article at townhall.com. People are running him and steering him, and he doesn't have the whisper of what we would call courage or conviction.
Right. Well, and because he can't get the stuff kicked out fast enough. I mean, they've attacked so many different areas of culture and life all at once, and I think this is part of the blowback that is causing parental communities to rise up. You know, one of the things I'm most excited about, to be candid, out of all this, is to see the growth of middle-class black parents debating CRT to their own school boards. There's something very powerful about a father and a mother, married black couple, living in a suburb and being part of a community and saying to a school board, what you're in essence trying to do is teach my child to be a racist.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com.
Don't you get tired of commercials screaming at you to buy? Howdy, everybody. This is the Dennis Prager Show, the male-female hour every Wednesday. Second hour of the show, how do you resolve issues like I want to go to this restaurant and you want to go to that restaurant? Your answers have been absolutely precious, including the last one, which bordered on the weird. I say that lovingly. They end up fighting, so to speak, over, no, let's go to yours. No, let's go to yours. If that happened in my marriage, I would always give in to my wife if she said, no, let's go to yours, Dennis. I go, fine. And that would end the tension. All right, everybody. This is... that's an interesting one. Linda, West Los Angeles. Hello.
Hi, Dennis. Nice to speak to you.
So you live in West L.A.?
Yes.
Are you rich?
No, I'm not, but I understand what you're saying. I do. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane. We can go into that discussion where they want to, up north in Sacramento, they want to change all the neighborhoods and control all zoning from Sacramento.
That's right.
And relinquish. Yeah, I mean, this has to be, I hope you do a segment on that, because what they want to do is control all of our neighborhoods and all of our communities from Sacramento. And it's a very important topic that most people don't know about. Right. But getting back to this topic, for 20 years, Dennis, I will say to my husband, do you want to go out for dinner tonight? Sure. And then we're going to go, and I'll say, where would you like to go? I don't care. Come on, there's got to be some type of food you would like. Nope, whatever you want. Now, that's nice once in a while, but for 20 years, not to have an opinion, to say that he doesn't care is really annoying.
Nice. And I totally sympathize with you. However, and the however is capitalized. Here is the man's response. Then I say to my wife, I'm giving you generic man X. So I say to my wife, no, honey, it doesn't matter. My wife says, no, you decide. Then I say, okay, let's go to Hugo's delicatessen. And then she goes, oh, no, not there. I want you to know that what I just described happens a lot, where the guy does say, after she says, no, decide. Then he decides, and she goes, no, not there.
Okay, I understand that, but honestly, I'm telling you, honestly, that never happens with us. If my husband would make a decision, I would be in shock. I'd go, my God, let's go.
God, for 20 years, the guy's been doing that. I would love to smack him. Hey, Joe, make the damn decision. Women like strong men. That is as true as men like beautiful women. Okay? That is how true it is. Okay? Boy, you know that every call has raised additional issues? This is a pregnant subject. I've never described a subject as pregnant. What is a pregnant subject? Okay. All right, that was a good one. Thank you. And Bonnie, also in Los Angeles, but not in the rich part of Los Angeles.
Sadly, but, I agree with your previous caller. It's a lot ridiculous here. But lucky to be near the ocean, so grateful for that, and grateful to speak to you today.
Thank you.
A little nervous, but I kind of, your last caller kind of put me off because now I feel like maybe I'm her husband, but for a different reason. I've been married 35 years, and we'd get in the car on a Friday night that we could go on a date, and my husband would say, where do you want to go? And I would say, you decide. And he'd say, no, I want to take you where you want to go. And I'm like, please do not make me make one more decision this week. In my job, I make a million decisions every day, every week, and I don't want to decide. So you decide. And he would feel bad, like, how can I not take you where you want to go? You've had a long week, and you've been, And I would be like, please, you decide. So it took him time to figure out that was the considerate thing to do, was for him to choose. And so I hope I wasn't annoying him by not actually.
Okay, so now, is that the general rule now? He does decide where you're going to go?
Yeah, because if I do have a hankering for some place, for that burger, or
then
Hugo's or whatever,
yeah,
he will go there, absolutely. But mostly it's like, you are doing me a favor. It is a gift, and it is considerate for you just to go, because wherever we go, like you said, it's not botulism on a plate. It's time with him, and that's what really matters. So he had to figure out that it was okay just to say, we're going to so-and-so. And I'd be, oh, thank God I don't have to choose.
I love it. I'm telling you, it's turned out to be one of the gem subjects of the female hour history. We got to keep this one. Hey, guys. If your wife says decide, damn it. The joke comes when you decide, and then she doesn't want the decision. That's when the fun begins. By the way, it should be fun. The more that is funnable, the happier the marriage. Fun is important to a marriage. I have a chapter in my book on happiness. Happiness is a serious problem, which if you haven't read, don't quite understand why not, because you listen to me, and that's a very important subject. But anyway, I have a chapter on the difference between fun and happiness. Fun is not the same thing as happiness. Most things that bring happiness are not that much fun. But you should make things as much fun as possible, including your marriage. We return, Male-Female Hour.
Streaming on Salem Now.
Some lawyer hit a little girl.
community is left in shock as former cancer patient Sharon Blackwell was struck by an oncoming vehicle.
Take this into evidence, sir.
I need to call my wife. You've been accused of texting while driving.
If we don't make an example out of this guy, the public will crucify us.
Before you take your daughter off life support, give God room to be God.
You're not guaranteed another day, but you have today. Get back or I'll shoot you.
No one's left inside for the pastor and his 2 daughters.
If you run, I'll shoot your family. Nobody cares whether I live or die. It's bad.
I'm not going to stand around and be a part of it anymore. Give me the gun.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
Las Vegas, I mean, it is open for business. It is wide open. It's unreal how different things are in a place like Las Vegas. I mean, somebody look up, Derek, see how many seats the O show at the Bellagio holds. How many seats are in that theater? The show is called O at the Bellagio. See how many seats it holds. It was packed. I mean, there's no social distancing going on in Las Vegas. There just isn't. Now, does that disturb you? Or does that make you happy? Does it bother you to know that there are communities that, like Las Vegas, that have a theater that I sat in and was in amazement at the Las Vegas production of O at the Bellagio with 1,800 seats, and it was packed. It was sold out. There weren't seats between other seats. There weren't empty seats blocked out with stupid X marks. And incidentally, on the topic of Las Vegas, may I respectfully suggest a must-see show. If you like Vegas like I do, I don't do a whole lot of gambling. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I love the theaters, the shows. I love the hotels. I love the restaurants. I love the vibe of Las Vegas. The Magic of Jen Kramer at the Westgate is a must-see.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now.
Terrific hour here. I had no idea how many roads would be traveled. By the way, it happens to me, the scenario that I described earlier of which restaurant to go to, and then my wife will say, oh, you decide. And then I do decide. And then she goes, no, not that one. So I mentioned this to the living martyr. He said it happens to him too. At those moments must, in my opinion, be sources of levity, not concern. That's a good key to working through a marriage. All right, let's see here. Don't hang up. I'm going to summarize what you folks have to say. Jeanette in San Diego. I usually don't care as much. He usually decides. That was my rule on any issue. The one with the greater passion on the issue, unless it's a values problem or raising the kids, that's a separate issue. Those are tough ones. Go with the one who has the greater passion on the subject. Mike in South Carolina, I usually let her pick. I mean, usually. What does that mean? Like 3 out of every 4 times. eating is not that important. Elizabeth in Chicago, my husband says he wants to go out. I say, tell me where you want to go, and I'll tell you you're wrong. That is awesome. He is lucky to be married to such a character. My theory is Elizabeth in Chicago is a character. In fact, give me 1 second, folks. Elizabeth, are you a character?
Yes, hello.
Are you a character?
I think I've been called worse, yes.
All right, that's all I needed to know because I got to summarize the other calls. She's been called worse. I'm a character. It's not a bad thing. It just is. There's some people are, some people aren't. The Living Martyr is not a character. Okay? It's not an insult. Lou in Rockwall, Texas. My wife has first choice. Simple as that. Now, is she happy about that? Travis in Oklahoma. If your wife chooses a restaurant you don't like, I tell her that's where a cute waitress is. Have to figure that one out. Then you will go or won't go. All right, and Mark and Bobby, thank you all for calling. Great hour. Stay tuned with me. I'm Dennis Prager.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio. Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
If you're longing for a place that feels like pre-pandemic America, I'll tell you right now, Las Vegas is one of them. What's your community? Tell me what your town is like and how you would respond to being in a theater with 1,800 other people, elbow to elbow. Here's Mike. What's the upstate of South Carolina, Mike, life like, Mike?
Mike, it is wide open for business, baby. We are rocking and rolling, and we cannot get enough people to work. So come on down here and grab yourself a job.
I love it. That makes me happy. Coming back to work makes me happy. Thank you, Mike.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
Joe Biden was sold as a moderate. People that had worked with Joe Biden back in the day said, "Oh, I've known Joe for years. He's okay. He's fine."
Listen, when he got the hair plugs, he flipped. A long time ago, he was bald as an egg, and he got hair plugs. And I believe those hair plugs were from a Chinese lab in the Wuhan province, and things started to go screwy, and he flipped.
So he said. I don't know that that's true. I think he hid maybe who he was for a long time. A lot of liberals did in the 70s.
Wait. First of all, he's nobody. He has no values. Let's not kid ourselves. He's not a Marxist. He is a husk of a person, and he will just do. That's the whole point of your article at townhall.com. People are running him and steering him, and he doesn't have the whisper of what we would call courage or conviction.
Right. Well, and because he can't get the stuff kicked out fast enough. I mean, they've attacked so many different areas of culture and life all at once, and I think this is part of the blowback that is causing parental communities to rise up. You know, one of the things I'm most excited about, to be candid, out of all this, is to see the growth of middle-class black parents debating CRT to their own school boards. There's something very powerful about a father and a mother, married black couple, living in a suburb and being part of a community and saying to a school board, what you're in essence trying to do is teach my child to be a racist.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com.
Don't you get tired of commercials screaming at you to buy gold now with inflated promises on future values? In an unregulated industry, you need honest, real experts to give you solid advice to protect your wealth and top picks on the best coins and bullion based on real-time data and historical trends. For example, as environmental policy becomes a hot topic, one precious metal that's been significantly undervalued for years is potentially set to surge. Nick Grovich, owner of AmFed Coin and Bullion, has long recommended this precious metal. Up to 600,000 ounces of this rare metal will be needed by 2030 to produce green hydrogen. Nick is doubling down on this pick, and you should too. Call Nick at AmFed Coin and Bullion to find out more. I've been friends with Nick for years, and he's my go-to guy when it comes to coins and bullion. I trust him. He is a good and very knowledgeable man. Call Nick at 800-221-7694. 800-221-7694, AmericanFederal.com, AmericanFederal.com. Not one mistake.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
I had studied Marxist history, beginning with Marx and Engels' Communist Manifesto from 1848. And when I first studied that and saw in section 1 of the manifesto what you can recognize as what's called the oppressor versus oppressed narrative of human history, a whole bunch of stuff that was taking place in our country began to become exceptionally clear to me. And I began to piece together a lot of the what I'll call militant impulse that was manifesting in society as time went on. And there's a victimhood ideology. There's constantly an effort by some individuals who have an agenda to pit groups of people against one another as victims or oppressed groups and oppressor groups. And we've seen very clearly over the past calendar year who the oppressor group is labeled to be and who the oppressed groups are labeled to be. And right now, under the auspices of diversity and inclusion training, as well as critical race theory and other narratives of American history that have been parading about throughout the country and showing up in our education system, all of those narratives seek to divide the American people by pitting people against one another into racial groups.
Yeah,
It's the white versus the black. It
used to be class, division by class. Now it's division by race, by skin color. We've only begun to scratch the surface. We're going to go deep dive on what's happening inside the U.S. military and why this man took the courageous step of writing the book Irresistible Revolution. Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Lohmeyer.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
Some lawyer hit a little girl.
Former cancer patient Sharon Blackwell was struck by an oncoming vehicle.
Take this into evidence, sir.
I need to call my wife.
You've been accused of texting while driving.
Before you take your daughter off life support, give God room to be God.
You're not guaranteed another day, but you have today.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dennis Prager. It hurts me. And any of you who have any familiarity with me know that I mean it sincerely. It hurts me to tell you that the President of the United States fomented division and lied throughout a speech. Now you'll say, well, isn't that what Trump did for 4 years? No, it is not what Trump did. It is what the media did. He did not foment division. It's a gigantic lie. Trump the racist? What's the evidence that he's a racist? There is none. The left does that all the time. They accuse others of the things that they do, so it creates a smokescreen behind which they can do what they do. I know the left very well. To charge these states with voter suppression, which is the way in which NBC, CBS, ABC, and the rest characterize what Georgia and other states have done. I had on Hans von Spakovsky, who actually does this week's PragerU video on the issue of the Georgia voting laws. It's 5 minutes. You should watch it. Show it to anybody who says that we conservatives are trying to suppress the vote. It is a complete lie. It's not partial lie. It's a complete lie. Asking people for voter ID is racist. It is racist to imply it is racist. The assumption that blacks and non-whites in general are so utterly incompetent that they can't provide an ID. It's... How would Jews feel if somebody said asking for voter ID is anti-Semitic? Jews would go, what the hell are you talking about? Even left-wing Jews, of which there are many. I'm sad to say as a Jew. It's a disgrace to Judaism, but they don't represent Judaism, so c'est la vie. Look, the Pope is a disgrace to Catholicism. What are you going to do? Well, I'll tell you what you're going to do. You're going to fight him. But anyway, Jews would say, what are you talking about? What, do you think we can't get an ID? You're an anti-Semite. Right? Left contempt for blacks is so deep and so obvious. They can't live up to standards, so drop the standards. That's the left's view of blacks. They can't even do math right. So there's no one right answer for math, says the Oregon Education Department. The president lied. Daily Mail, President Joe Biden on yesterday, launched an assault on attempts by Republican-controlled states to change voting rights laws. See, I have to say, Daily Mail said it right. Change. Not suppress. Blasting them as a threat to democracy. This is election subversion. It is the most dangerous threat to voting in the integrity of free and fair elections in our history, he said. In our history. No, that now, he doesn't give one example. Just know this. Every time I attack the left for the destructive, nihilistic, chaos-loving force that it is, I give an example. Every day I give an example of everything the left touches it destroys. From music and art to colleges to high schools to elementary schools to children's innocence to the happiness of young women. Something I reported on yesterday, how progressive young women are so much more depressed than conservative young women. It's true about everybody on the left. Depressed people gravitate to the left, and the left makes you depressed. Mean people gravitate to the left, and the left makes you meaner. Want an example? Okay, like examples? How Kavanaugh was treated. Sheer sadistic meanness. There's nothing comparable from the right. Nothing comparable. A leftist believes you are allowed to do anything to win. Anything. You can ruin a good man's life to win. Republican members of the state legislatures are trying to pass 21st century Jim Crow laws. Jim Crow laws. Give an example. You had a lot of time, Mr. President. Give one example, you liar. I've never called a president a liar in my life. And I broadcast for 8 years of Bill Clinton. Never once called him a liar. And 8 years of Barack Obama. Never called him a liar. Biden lies when he talks. They want to make it so hard and inconvenient they hope people don't vote at all. Oh, really? Any evidence of that? Any evidence? Describe the laws as odious and vicious. All he does, like the left does, they want to foment interracial loathing. That's all it is. In the hope that the blacks will continue to vote Democrat. And blacks do, no matter how much Democrats use them. Fewer blacks than before, but still a great majority. Be interesting to see what happens in California, where Larry Elder has now announced that he'll be running for governor. By the way, the website to help Larry to fund him is up at DennisPrager.com. This is a great man, a great American, a great black, a great human. So let's help elect him. Just go to my website and click on the Elect Larry Elder website. God, wouldn't it be, it would be precious to have Larry debate any Democrat. They never do, though. The LA Times called me yesterday. Did you know that? Yeah, the LA Times called me to comment on Larry Elder's running for governor. Since Larry had said that I was one of the people who convinced him to do so, which is very sweet of Larry. I didn't even know I was playing that role. I mean, I'm honored, but in any event, they called me. And I mentioned to he's a columnist for the Los Angeles Times. I said, you know that I've offered tens of thousands of dollars to Ibram X. Kendi and Ta-Nehisi Coates and the others to debate Larry Elder? They'll never debate him. The left doesn't debate. They smear. They know in their hearts they will lose any debate with an articulate conservative. Any. I'll raise tens of thousands of dollars if Tom Friedman of the New York Times debates me. Public forum anywhere on America, left and right. Where should we go, left or right? Who's better for the country, left or right? They'll never do it. I have more name recognition than Tom Friedman. More than happy to do it. They'll never do it. They don't debate. We do. And we do it, by the way, quite respectfully. One leftist debated me at a San Francisco synagogue. I think it's still up at YouTube. You'll see how nicely I treated him. You'll also see that I won. There was no vote at the end, but it's obvious. They never win because nothing they hold is based on truth or rationality. Nothing. That's the amazing thing. If you believe in truth and reason, you can't be a leftist. You can't. You can be a liberal. You know, I told the guy from the LA Times how much I divide between liberal and leftist, gave him examples, and the guy was actually fascinated. My wife overheard the interview. He was fascinated. LA Times guy. Wow, I never thought of that. Of course he never thought of it, because he doesn't listen to my show. They never listen to us. We listen to them. We study under them. Joe Biden lied to the country last night for 25 minutes. That's all he did. We'll be back in a moment.
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Anyway, you were talking about Bill Cosby, and I kind of disagreed with you about, you were saying about all the women. I might say maybe, what is it, 18 women?
Oh, no, it's close to 50 women that have made allegations.
50?
50.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you believe all of them are
Well,
telling the
you think all 50 are lying, including Beverly Johnson, one of the first black major models in America? She said he also gave her drugs and tried to rape her.
I'm a woman, and what I'm saying is, and they're in Hollywood. He's a high profile man,
Mm-hmm.
and they wanted to be alone with him. They might not have wanted his advances, but it's kind of
Lynn, please. There's no doubt that because he was famous and rich, he attracted women. The question is, did he drug them and have sex with them? And that's known as rape.
And the question is, let me answer that. That's what I'm saying. If they drank anything that he had, they willingly drink it.
Okay. Now, Lynn, hold on a second. The reason Bill Cosby got released is because the prior prosecutor apparently entered into some sort of deal with him and said, you're not going to be criminally prosecuted if you testify honestly in the civil trial. And in the civil trial, years ago, he testified and admitted that he gave that particular woman a drug in order to have sex with her. He admitted it under oath.
One woman. Okay, one woman. Yes, but not.
How many does it take?
Well, I just saying, I know I'm a woman. I know women. I'm not saying some of it didn't happen, but some of them are scorned because they thought they was going to get something out of it.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
What is your message to those who think this isn't a big deal or who feel cowed and intimidated? What do you say to them?
Anytime you say something like what I'm about to say, I'm sure it can be abused and misused, so I'll be very careful in how I say it. I've never read Hitler's Mein Kampf, but I've picked it up recently in the past week because I'm interested in learning everything I can about history. After spending just a day with his Mein Kampf, the spirit and essence of his race hatred that shows up in that book, a set of two books, is very similar to what I'm seeing show up in How to Be an Anti-Racist.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on The Charlie Kirk Show.
I want to talk about what's happening in New York with Letitia James and what I consider to be a political persecution unlike anything, I think, in American political history. How are you guys dealing with this? And do you guys see this as, you obviously said this last night, but as a continuation of almost this 5-year political witch hunt?
100%. I mean, it's pretty clear when the Attorney General of a state, without any information, literally campaigns on saying, "Hey, we're going to investigate, we're going to lock them up, we're going to do this, that, and the other." It's pretty amazing that they can get away with it, and then they do it, and then they do it for 5 years. And the reality is this: there's no recourse. There's no one keeping them in check, Charlie. They can just do this. You have nowhere to appeal it to. You're going to appeal it to a leftist.
All right, y'all. Dennis Prager here. The staggering things that were said by the President of the United States last night. There were no lies told by Donald Trump that come close to just the lies of last night by Joe Biden. Name them. Name lies that he told that are as consequential as the ones that Joe Biden did last night. Yeah. The changes Republicans are pushing include many states have permitted citizens, if not already registered to vote, to do so on Election Day with simple evidence of their residency in the state. But the new legislation in some states demands they register early and do so with an official ID card like a driver's license. That is mind-boggling. By the way, you can get an ID for free so easily. I covered that in the first hour with Hans von Spakovsky of the Heritage Foundation. Democrats and civil liberties groups claim the ID requirements hit the poor. Hits the poor to have an ID requirement? No. If anybody is hit having an ID requirement, there's something wrong with that person. It has nothing to do with poverty. Poor people are not morons. Georgia cut in half the time allowed to obtain a mail-in ballot. Why is that bad? First of all, I think the whole thing has been a disgrace. There's supposed to be an election day, not an election month. Arizona proposed to require that every mailed ballot has postmarked 5 days before an election. Whoa, that's really suppression. That's anti-black. Blacks don't know where mailboxes are. That's the view. Remember, Ami Horowitz did a great video in Harlem. Hey, folks, you know how to get an ID? They laughed at him. Every black person he asked basically laughed at him. What are you talking about? The DMV is right over there. The contempt for blacks by the left is like the contempt for workers by the communists. They used them. Many blacks are awakening to the fact that the left uses them. The left cares as much about blacks as it cares about any other group. Zilch cares about itself. Colorado and other states send mail-in ballots to every registered voter. In June, Wisconsin's Republican legislature voted to require anyone wanting a mail-in ballot to formally request it in writing with a copy of their ID. Let me see what's wrong with that. Democracy worked pretty effectively before we had election months. It's a very beautiful thing that people line up, take their children with them to see this in action. I would be okay with no mail-in ballots, zero. And if I were out of town on election day, okay, c'est la vie. I wouldn't vote. So be it. The gain is much less than the loss. There should be one election day. There should be a lot of voting areas so that people don't have to wait long in line. And if you get thirsty, there can be water available. This notion that they want you to die of thirst in line was a farce. They don't want people campaigning, hey, I'm with the Democratic candidate. Here's a tuna melt. I don't know if tuna melt would get a vote. Here's a burger. I would like the tuna melt. New Zealand children falling ill in high numbers due to COVID immunity debt. If it all works out, in a few moments, I will be talking, after this segment, I will be talking to a Swedish doctor in Stockholm who has written extensively about our response to COVID. I am proud to remind you that I said that the worldwide lockdown was the greatest mistake in history. I said that all of these laws of lockdown, closing restaurants, etc., was a preview of a police state. I'm not happy I was right, but I was right. And it doesn't end. Now in LA at least, and in New York, cities run by Democrats, therefore fools, power-hungry fools, want your children to wear masks. That should be the final straw for some of you not to send your kids to school. Why would you want your children taught by fools? I mean, think about that. You're paying a terrible price to send your child to most schools. Teachers don't teach anymore. They indoctrinate. They rob your children of innocence. They won't even call them boys and girls. Do you know that? Why don't you find out if your school has teachers call their children boys and girls? Will that be enough to convince you not to send your children to that school? No, we don't call our students boys and girls anymore because there may be a non-binary student in class. Non-binary. The fact that I even know the name gives you an idea of how effective the left is. Non-binary. How many non-binaries did you know in your life? The answer is 0. How many people are there who don't think they're either male or female? How many? And if there is such a person, why does that negate the fact that there are males and females? The fact that an individual has that dysphoria is a tragedy. It's not celebratory, it's a tragedy. My heart goes out to that individual. If they sincerely don't know if they're a boy or a girl at the age of 6, this is a tragedy. You don't deny that there are boys and girls because there's one kid in the school who doesn't know if he or she is a boy or a girl. Ask your school. Ask them. This is another column I need to write. Questions you should ask your school to determine if you want your child to go there. Do teachers call the students boys and girls at Kazuter Academy? That's the question for KA. We'll be back.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
If you're longing for a place...
Streaming on Salem Now.
218 out with him. Headed for the house. He's got a hostage.
You believe in God, Chip. Why does a kid die? Drug dealer get off scot-free.
Well, the only answer to that is there isn't a God.
You have a choice. You can either let the darkness overtake you, or you can be a bearer of the light.
So just think of it as calling for backup.
Officer down, officer down.
You're the one God's called to be a shepherd.
Keeper, do you know who I am?
You are the author?
I am.
I don't know you.
Keeper, it's your son.
Hurry it up! Time is short.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on the Charlie Kirk Show.
And so, Don, a question I get a lot, and where people are emailing us, freedom@charliekirk.com right now, is how is your family holding up in the midst of this? How is your father holding up? I mean, after delivering results for our country, doing everything he said he was going to do, people kind of take me aside. They say, hey, how are they hanging in there? Any insight you can give us, Don, into that?
Yeah, listen, we're doing well. You know, maybe because we're a bit masochistic, we sort of like to be in the fight, and more importantly, because the fight is worth it. I mean, you brought up, opening this thing. My book, Liberal Privilege. Like, it's literally about all of these things. Whether it's the sort of faulty persecutions, whether it's the ongoing aspects of this. I mean, look at what's going on. Even take January 6th, okay, and say what you want about it. Like, if you commit a crime, you should commit a crime, but The FBI and the highest levels of law enforcement, anyone who is, if you are within about 2,000 miles of Washington, D.C., and you're a conservative, it's like the FBI is putting out, have you seen this man? He was seen somewhere within 1,500 miles of D.C. that day. Let's find him. But 13, 14 months of looting, of arson, burning our cities down, taking over buildings. Charlie, I've been told that that's insurrection. I've been told that's insurrection, and yet there doesn't seem to be any interest in looking into that insurrection. It's total pass. And this is how disgusting it's been. And that's my point, I guess. We have to stay in the fight. We have to be engaged. You and I both understand how much of a disadvantage you are in if you're a conservative. You understand you get no help from the mainstream media. You get no help from print media. You get no help from social media. Frankly, they're working actively against us.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
Men and women died in Vietnam or the other wars that we fought for our flag.
Hey, what a great call. What a great point that is. To disrespect those men who spilled blood, who left their limbs on the battlefield, the way the left is doing. Chris, you're on the Mike Gallagher Show. How you doing, Chris?
Good, Mike. It's a nice honor to talk to you finally.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. Honor to speak to you as well.
Mike, I'll make this real quick. I'm probably not all that great at talking on air, but all I am is a lifeguard on the ocean front in southeast North Carolina.
Right.
And I just want to say that, this weekend we had outstanding weather. The crowds were fantastic. Everyone was just well behaved.
Wow.
Mike, I was on my tower. And I was looking north.
Wrong, which means that most of what you've heard on this show is right. Dr. Rushworth, welcome to the Dennis Prager Show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Well, good. Are you in Stockholm right now?
Yeah, I am.
All right, I have so many questions for you, sir, that it's difficult to know where to begin. You have in your book a line in the very beginning about something, a quote that goes something like this, as you write: half of what you learn in medical school will be shown to be completely wrong within 5 years after you've graduated. Why is that?
It's a classic quote from David Sackett, who's a well-known doctor. He's one of the founders of evidence-based medicine, and why it's wrong. I guess it's just that medical science moves so quickly that paradigms get overturned quickly. That's the best answer I can offer for why that's the case.
Well, good. That's actually reassuring. So it's not so much that the medical school taught you what was wrong, as the evidence will change within 5 years.
I think that's the best interpretation. That and medical schools are always a bit behind, so they're kind of teaching you what was the cutting edge 20 years ago. So I guess that's also part of it. That what you're learning in medical school, by the time you're learning it, it's already often outdated because science has already moved on, and the medical schools are always struggling to catch up.
All right, that's I buy that, and that's the positive side. What about the negative side? How often medical authorities have been wrong on major issues? And of course, I'm specifically referring to the response outside of Sweden. We'll talk about the Swedish response momentarily. How do you account for that, the medical authorities' responses around the world that you believe were in error?
Well, I think that people get... I think there are a lot of reasons for this, and I think it's partly political, and when it comes to COVID, I think the politicians have been given a lot of say in what the truth is and what's right and what's wrong, and for whatever reason, I mean, public health officials, they stand behind what the politicians say because the politicians are their bosses. But when it comes to COVID, doctors and scientists on the ground have also largely gone with this official paradigm, and I can't say exactly why that is. I mean, most doctors don't look at the science directly. Most doctors don't have time to sit and pore over studies. So at some point, you just have to decide who do you trust, and the easy solution is to trust what the authorities are telling you. And I think that's probably the main reason why most doctors have gone with the main paradigms when it comes to COVID.
Yeah, because they follow the authorities. So my question is, why are medical authorities... Look, I mean, let's get specific here. Let's begin with lockdowns. Sweden did not lock down, for all intents and purposes, anywhere near like the rest of the world. So, was Sweden right or wrong?
I think Sweden did the right thing personally. I think what happened was that Sweden followed what the WHO had decided beforehand was the correct way to handle respiratory viral pandemic.
All right, hold on one moment, Dr. Rushworth. In Sweden, I have to take a break for an American commercial. Nerve Renew is a product that I endorse wholeheartedly because I take it, I discovered it. It enabled me to get rid of inserts I had had for years for my own tingling neuromas in my feet. If you have feet and nerve tingling numbness, Nerve Renew is a 2-week free trial and a 1-year money-back guarantee. NerveRenew.com. Yes, indeed, y'all. Dr. Sebastian Rushworth is a Swedish doctor, written extensively about COVID. Very, very, very important book. And it is available at DennisPrager.com or at SebastianRushworth.com. And it is published this year in Stockholm. COVID, Why Most of What You Know is Wrong. And it is vindicating of everything that you have heard on this program for the last year and a half. We're talking about the Swedish response and why you feel that was right and the rest of the world was wrong. So continue.
So I think Sweden really just followed what the WHO had agreed was the correct way to handle the pandemic before COVID hit. And I think what happened, personally, I think it has a lot to do with random chance. I think it has to do with the fact that the pandemic started in China, and this is just my personal speculation and my trying to make sense of what happened, but the Chinese authorities made this big show of doing harsh lockdowns. They were welding doors shut, welding people into apartment buildings, and you saw trucks driving around spraying disinfectant over everything, and they kind of put on this whole show that made this seem like a very severe pandemic. And then a month or so later, they said, "Look, COVID's gone. There isn't a single case here in Wuhan anymore. We've gotten rid of it." And I think the rest of the world saw this and panicked, and saw that China was claiming that they were doing amazing things, and demanded that, and people in the West demanded that their political leaders do the same thing, and then when politicians and governments started doing these things, they got scared and they thought, "Wow, they're locking down. This must be really bad," and they started demanding even harsher lockdowns. And I think we kind of ended up in this positive feedback loop where the populace was demanding harsher and harsher measures, and the politicians were giving harsher and harsher measures. And I mean, Sweden isn't immune. The Swedish media have been demanding harsh lockdowns since the beginning. I think the main difference with Sweden is that I think it's partly that the decisions were being made by, the big decisions were being made by career epidemiologists. The politicians weren't really involved, at least during the first wave, in the decisions. The decisions were being made by epidemiologists. And I think in Sweden there's also a tradition of respect for the Constitution, and so while governments in a lot of other countries were running roughshod over their constitutions, the Swedish government went, "Well, we have to respect our constitution, so we can't do these things because they're unconstitutional."
God, I hope everybody heard every word you said. You have no idea how often I praised Sweden in the last year and a half. I'll get back to that. I just want to understand something that I'm not clear about. What the Chinese did with the lockdown, the severe lockdown, which gave the world an example of what to follow, was that a show, or were they doing it because they believed it would work?
So, I mean, it's pure speculation on my part. I can't know what they were thinking, but it was clear early on that this pandemic was, I mean, it's a bad flu, but it's not worse than that. And so from my perspective, what they were doing was more putting on a show than I mean, seriously trying to stop the pandemic, because I think they knew how they knew what they were dealing with from the beginning.
So you think they were putting it on the show so that the rest of the world would emulate them, would copy them?
I don't think they were. I don't think the goal was necessarily for the rest of the world to emulate it. I think it might just have been intended for the internal Chinese audience to see how strong and powerful the Chinese government is, and how. Because remember, the Chinese were kind of the Chinese government was. Their initial response was to pretend like COVID didn't exist, and then I think it kind of went viral on social media in China, and they felt, okay, we need to have a different approach because this isn't something we can just knock down, and then they went with this alternate strategy of putting on this big Hollywood movie style show, and so I think it was intended as a. My guess would be that it was primarily intended as a show of strength for the Chinese populace, but then the rest of the world saw what they were doing and freaked out. That's just my guess, though. I mean, that could be completely wrong.
It makes a lot of sense what you're saying. All right, I want to get back to Sweden. I followed Sweden intensely. I don't read Swedish, but much can be translated, and much is in English. I knew that the Swedish media were angry beyond words. Plus, many Swedish doctors were condemning the decisions of your leading epidemiologist. So, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? The politician or the panic-stricken epidemiologist? That's my next question for Dr. Sebastian Rushworth, a Swedish truth-telling doctor whose work I have been reading all year. His book is up at DennisPrager.com. I love these. I love these.
Streaming on Salem Now.
Surprise. Sharon and I.
Sharon and you what?
Things just happened.
My girlfriend and my best friend.
You got 30 days to grow up, son.
Nathan Hannigan, it is good to have you home.
Nona, it's Nathan.
Well, you don't mind my giving her your room, do you?
Really though, thanks for thinking of me for this position.
I thought about you first. Come on, growing up, I had a huge crush on you.
There are things that we all need to change about ourselves, but we can't blame God because He helps us change.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Anyway, you were talking about Bill Cosby, and I kind of disagreed with you about, you were saying about all the women, I might say maybe 18 women?
Oh, no, it's close to 50 women that have made allegations.
50?
50, 50.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you believe all of them are
Well, you think all 50 are lying, including Beverly Johnson, one of the first black major models in America? She said he also gave her drugs and tried to rape her.
I'm a woman, and what I'm saying is, and they're in Hollywood. He's a high-profile man,
mm-hmm.
and they wanted to be alone with him. They might not have wanted his advances, but it's kind of
Lynn, please. There's no doubt that because he was famous and rich, he attracted women. The question is, did he drug them and have sex with them? And that's known as rape.
And the question is, let me answer that. That's what I'm saying. If they drank anything that he had, they willingly drink it.
Okay. Now, Lynn, hold on a second. The reason Bill Cosby got released is because the prior prosecutor apparently entered into some sort of deal with him and said, you're not going to be criminally prosecuted if you testify honestly in the civil trial. And in the civil trial, years ago, he testified and admitted that he gave that particular woman a drug in order to have sex with her. He admitted it under oath.
One woman. Okay, one woman. Yes, but not.
How many does it take?
Well, I just saying, I know I'm a woman. I know women. I'm not saying some of it didn't happen, but some of them are scorned because they thought they was going to get something out of it.
So. Hi, everybody. Dennis Prager with Sebastian Rushworth, Dr. Sebastian Rushworth, Swedish doctor. I need to tell you, on a personal note, two things. One, my respect for you over the course of the year. I've never met you, obviously. Number two, which frankly did surprise me. I've been to Sweden a number of times, but Sweden was never on my list of countries I most admired because of a whole host of issues. I never had disdain for it. But if you would have asked me what countries I most admire, it wouldn't have been on the list, given its neutrality in World War II, which disturbed me, and other positions that it took in the course of its political evolution. But I changed my mind this year with its response to COVID. Which leads me to the point, you said that politicians, you said, politicians drove the response, the lockdown response. But it strikes me that politicians were driven to this response by scientists, by the modelers, and by the epidemiologists, except in the case of Sweden, where your leading epidemiologist said don't lock down. So I blame the medical people that they listen to even more than the politicians.
Well, I mean, I agree. Modelers have played a big part in the initial response, especially certain models coming out of the UK that claimed that several 100,000 British citizens were going to die. But at the same time, I mean, a model is designed to show whatever. Modeling is really one of exercise that's designed to tell you what you want to hear. So I don't know what the politicians were saying they wanted to hear, but and maybe the modelers wanted to create this extreme reaction. It's hard to say what people were thinking at the time. In Sweden, government agencies are very independent. There's this tradition that the government is not allowed to interfere with government agencies on a day-to-day basis. It's allowed to kind of set the agenda, decide what rules they're supposed to follow, but it's not allowed to interfere on a day-to-day basis. And so the natural thing when the pandemic hit Sweden was that the public health agency would run the pandemic response.
All right. We can hear more, by the way, at Pragertopia. More discussion with Dr. Sebastian Rushworth. And his book is up at my website. Let me talk to him. Hello. Hello. Oh, good. You're still there, Sebastian?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Good. So I'm going to continue with you for special people who